KL Publications presents Lessons from Two Dads, the tale of Lance Sanders and Jarrod. Once upon a time, in a town called Harmonyville, there lived two best friends, Lance Sanders and Jarrod Coleman. They spent every day together, whether they were riding their bikes through the woods or dreaming about their futures under the big oak tree near the park. Although Lance and Jarrod were inseparable, their families couldn't have been more different. Lance's father, Mr. Sanders, was a successful businessman. He wasn't formally educated, but he understood how money worked. People in town often called him the rich dad because he had built a number of businesses and owned several houses that earned him money, even when he wasn't working. Lance didn't realize it yet, but his father was teaching him some very important lessons about how to handle money and become successful. Jarrod's father, Mr. Coleman, was known as the poor dad. Even though he was one of the most smartest men in town, he had gone to school for many years and had an important job at the local school. But even with all his education, he struggled to pay bills and was always worried about money. Every month after paying his house, his car, and other things, there wasn't much left. Mr. Coleman believed that working hard and a steady job was the key to success. But no matter how hard he worked, it never seemed to be enough. One sunny afternoon, as Lance and Jarrod sat by the oak tree, they began talking about their dads. "I don't understand," said Lance. "My dad didn't even go to college, but he always so calm about money. He doesn't work as much as your dad, but he still has enough to buy things and even take vacations." Jarrod frowned. "My dad says the most important thing is to work hard, get a good job, and save money. But we still struggle. Maybe your dad just got lucky." Lance shook his head. "I don't think it's luck unless luck stands for laboring under correct knowledge. My dad talks something about assets and liabilities. He says that an asset is something that puts money in your pocket, like houses he rents out. A liability is something that takes money out of your pocket, like a car payment." Jarrod tilted his head, confused. "What do you mean? Isn't a house, a car, or something that everyone needs?" "Well," Lance explained, "my dad says that not all houses or cars are bad, but they can be liabilities if you're only spending money on them. He buys houses that other people live in, and those people pay him rent every month. That's why he says they're assets. They make him money." Jarrod's eyes widened. "I never heard that before. My dad is always saying we need to save money and avoid risks." "My dad thinks that risks are okay," Lance said thoughtfully. "He says that sometimes to grow, you have to take smart risks like investing in businesses or real estate. It's not about avoiding all risks, but learning how to take the right ones." Later that week, Lance invited Jarrod to dinner at his house. As they sat around the table, Mr. Sanders shared his thoughts about money. "Lance, tell me you've been wondering about how money works," he said to Jarrod. "I'll tell you something my dad taught me. Most people get stuck in what's called the rat race. They work hard for their paycheck, spend it on bills, and then they work even harder the next month just to do the same thing. They never really build wealth." Jarrod nodded slowly. "That sounds a lot like what my dad says we have to do. Is that bad?" "Not bad," Mr. Sanders said kindly, "but there's a better way. Instead of working for money, you can learn how to make money work for you. That's why I focus on buying assets, things that keep making money even when I'm not working, like businesses or rental properties. The key is financial education, learning how to use money wisely." Jarrod was amazed. He had never heard anyone talk about money like this. But as he walked home that evening, he began to feel sad. "My dad works so hard," he thought. "He's so smart, but why does he struggle?" A few days later, Jarrod talked to his father about what he'd learned. Mr. Coleman listened carefully and nodded. "Lance's dad is right about some things," he said. "I've always believed in working hard and earning a good salary, but I never really thought about making my money work for me. Maybe there's more I need to learn about how money works." From that day on, Jarrod and his father began to explore new ideas. Mr. Coleman took small risks and bought a house to rent out, just like Mr. Sanders had done. He taught Jarrod about the importance of saving and education, but he also started learning more about assets, just like Lance's father. Meanwhile, Lance continued learning from his dad, but he also started appreciating the lessons he could learn from Jarrod's father. Mr. Coleman taught me that education is important, Lance told his dad one evening. He might not be rich, but he's really smart, and he always tries to do the right thing. I think there's a lot I can learn from him too. Mr. Sanders smiled. That's the secret, Lance. It's not about one way being better than the other. It's about taking the best of both. You need the mindset of someone who understands how to build assets, but you also need to appreciate the value of hard work and education. When you combine the two, you can be both wise and successful. As the years passed, Lance and Jarrod continued to grow and learn together. Lance invested in businesses, and Jarrod used his education to teach others about the importance of financial literacy. They realized that by learning from both of their dads, they could create a life that was rich in more ways than one. And so in the town of Harmonyville, two friends found a way to bring together the lessons of the rich dad and the poor dad, proving that the best path to success is the one that combines wisdom, hard work, and the courage to take smart risks. And they live financially ever after. Thank you for listening. Please subscribe.